like drugs are disproportionately higher in the black community throughout the U.S. Is it, in your opinion, a form of conspiracy to oppress us? And how can we get drugs out of our community?
Well, there's no question that drugs are put into the community to dull our consciousness, to bring violence into the community, to make the stability, to bring total insecurity into the community, so that we'll have to depend upon the police. That's the purpose of it. That's the political purpose of it. The only way we can fight it is to properly organize ourselves, understanding the enemy of drugs, the police, the enemies of those who are really fighting against drugs, the CIA, the FBI, and the police. Therefore, this clear fight which must be engaged will call for proper organization. Thus, the best way to get drugs out of our community is to start organizing our community. The only way. Everything else is patchwork. Once we organize our community, we will decide the quantity of drugs that will flow into our community. Since we do not control it, we do not decide this. And it is the police who brings the drugs into the community. This is clear. If they don't bring it in, they ought to resign. They certainly have no dignity, because I'm not a policeman. I can find the drugs. If I can find the drugs, how come they can't find it? It's clear. So really, if I would not be a policeman. I couldn't be a policeman and have drugs in my community and not be cleaning up the drugs and say I'm a policeman. If you're not part of the problem, you're part of the solution. If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. If the police are not helping to clean up drugs, they're the ones who bring the drugs in. So when we speak of cleaning up drugs, we know precisely what it is. But this is done by all imperialism. You look at history, it's nothing new. I'm not even worried about it. If drugs is all they got for us, brother, we got them hands down. The Chinese whooped them with an opium war. Chinese took opium out that they forced them to take and whooped them all hands down. Now, you know, crack ain't even opium. So victory is ours, just steady organization, serious organization. Already resistance has begun against drugs, but it must be organized.
What do you think of the revolutionary struggle in Peru and its effect on the rest of Latin America?
The struggle in Peru is an important struggle. Peru has continued its struggle against all sorts of obstacles of repressive machinery. There, the struggle led by many forces, and especially the Shining Path forces, have continued their struggle. They have arrested, of course, the chairman. They have held him in prison. They have isolated him. But the Shining Path continues its struggle. Peru is instructive for us because Peru shows a continual armed struggle can be waged against the neo-colonial government, even on a protracted basis. There's no question that the struggle in Peru will lead to the tumbling down of the neo-colonial structure and the building up of a socialist state. There's no question here. Even if they assassinate the chairman, which is certainly what they want to do, even if they do whatever they want to do, and they cannot stop it now, the revolutionary forces, guided by Shining Path, have certainly spread enough political education thoroughly among the masses. And as Karl Marx properly showed us, ideas become material reality when the masses take hold of it. And there's no question that the masses have taken hold of revolutionary thought now in Peru. The forces have reached a position where the struggle is irreversible. It can only but go forward. And certainly since the arrest of Chairman Guzman, we see that from the forces and the problems that the government itself is undergoing. What does she mean? What does she mean? What does she mean by reverse racism?
Like, political correctness is used to stigmatize struggles of people of color, especially on college campuses today. We're called militant. We're called all sorts of things.
Oh, that's all? You know what Secretary says? He says, if the enemy is not doing anything against you, you're not doing anything. All they're doing is calling you names. I'm not sure I want to know you. Yeah, of course, but as we said, you know, the enemy is supposed to do that. As a matter of fact, if the enemy is not putting blocks in your path, you're not doing anything. So you should be happy the more paths they put in your way. As a matter of fact, you should be proud. I remember as a student, they tried to stigmatize us, but what finally happened was that we were so stigmatized as revolutionaries that when we passed a group of students, you know how they'd always talking nonsense, lollygagging, but as soon as they saw us, they would stop, change the topic real quick about the moves. We talk about the struggle, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead. So their stigmatizing helps you, because the students know you as a conscious student, and therefore they understand that they can look to you always for serious advice and for serious struggle, and that they begin to have faith and confidence in you. So from this enemy, you must take it. All you must do is always be honest, that's all. Always be honest, that's all.
My name is Alonzo Young, and we talked earlier about conspiracy about drugs. Do you see the Brady Bill as another conspiracy to disarm conscious people?
Yeah. You know, guns do not kill. It's people that kill. Do you know that in Cuba, every Cuban citizen has a gun? All of them. And do you know every one of them is trained by the Cuban military to use weapons? And do you know that Cuba is much poorer than America? And there is no crime wave in Cuba. It is not guns that kill, it is capitalism and its criminal mentality that kills. Therefore, I could never, ever give any advice to any African in any racist capitalist system to give up the guns. That's the easy way out. My job is to transform them so that they will know the guns which they have must not be used against their people, but for the protection of their people. So since we like difficult struggles, that's the one we take on. Certainly we could not tell our people to put down guns. Do you know Harriet Tubman? Do you know she carried a gun? Do you know why she carried a gun? Against whom? No, against African men. Yes, yes, it's a fact. She had to carry a gun with them because when she was taking them out of the Underground Railroad, you know, women want to go ahead. You know how the men are. I want to go back. I'm not going to tell. She'd pull out the gun. She This is the truth. This is the truth. I'm giving you history. This is the truth. This is the truth. You read the history. She'd pull out the gun, and she put it right to his head, and she'd tell him, dead men tell no tales. Either you go forward or I'm going to kill you. And somehow he just seemed to get the strength. So you see, I know the gun has been used as an instrument to force our men to liberation. How could I say give up the guns? No. I say, at least brothers, give all the guns to the sisters.
What's your reading on the Nation of Islam?
Oh, straight ahead. Straight ahead, I've had the privilege of working with Minister Louis Farrakhan for over 30 years. I knew him before he knew me. I used to see him in Harlem when he used to come there. Huh? Oh, yes. And their job is just to attack him. Now, this attack you must understand precisely. There's a difference between Judaism and Zionism. This distinction must be properly understood. Judaism is a religion. Zionism is a political philosophy. All political systems seek to cover themselves with religions to fool the people over their just instincts. I mean, when they rode through Hawaii, killing the Hawaiians, they did it with God on their side. De Klerk and his ancestors went to Azania, South Africa. God directed them there because we didn't know what to do with the wealth that God gave us. And in Palestine, it is so tight that it becomes God's chosen people. But we say no, we must not allow capitalism to let us think that slavery is Christianity. A slave master can never be a Christian. Any Christian must free all slaves the minute they become a Christian. Therefore, a slave master can never be a Christian. A Zionist can never be a Jew. They are two diametrically opposed systems. If you will look at Judaism, just in the Judeo-Christian heritage, God had a covenant with the Jews. He did. He promised them the land. He did. But in my culture, I've been told all my life that God is no respecter of persons. In the South, they used to tell me, son, God don't come when you call him. He comes when you need him. So if God promises you something, you better sit and wait until God delivers on his promise. Human intervention can never speed up divine prophecy. It can only contaminate it. And therefore, anytime they take up American guns and go to shoot the Palestinian people to take the land in the name of God, everyone will know this is the devil in disguise. No one will come to the table. This distinction must properly be made, because some people really get confused thinking they're one and the same. Zionism will even make it appear that if all Jews are Zionists, nothing is further from the truth. There are many, many, many anti-Zionist Jews. As a matter of fact, those Jews blame Zionism for their problems. They say, it is true, the Jews have suffered for centuries, this is true, but the suffering they've had since you all created the state of Israel, they have never seen in all their life. And they even blame this suffering upon the Zionists, the religious Jews. So a clear distinction must be made. Now, all of this is said because one of the reasons that Minister Louis Farrakhan is in the highlight is because he's being attacked by the African Death League, what is known as the Anti-Defamation League. But the Anti-Defamation League has nothing to do with Judaism and everything to do with Zionism. And this is what people get confused. They think it's a religious, they cannot be a religious organization. If you know nothing about Martin Luther King, you must know he's a righteous man. And if you know nothing about Martin Luther King, you must know anybody spying on Martin Luther King cannot be righteous. Do you know the ADL spied on Martin Luther King? And do you know King denounced me for them on the question of Zionism, and they still spied on him? And do you know the African Death League spies on over 3,000 people in this country and share this information with the FBI, the CIA, and Mossad, the Zionist intelligence forces? Therefore, they cannot be. They cannot be for any number of reasons. I am anti-Zionist. I've been saying that since I'm a child. In 1967, as chairperson for the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, when the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee attacked Zionism, since 1967, I've not turned back. I've become more anti-Zionist. I will tell you tonight that I'm anti-Zionist. The capitalist press tomorrow will tell you Kwame Ture is anti-Jewish and anti-Semitic. That's exactly what they'll tell you. Of course, I cannot be anti-Jewish. I know my people gave Judaism to the world. I know this. I have to respect it, if for no other reason, being a conscious African. I cannot be anti-Semitic. Our party gives unconditional support to the Palestine Liberation Organization. I've had the privilege of meeting Yasser Arafat in the past and will continue to meet him if I live in the future. Yasser Arafat is a Semite. How can I be anti-Semitic if I support the Palestinians and their Semites? I am anti-Zionist because it is an unjust, illegal, racist system which must be destroyed, and it will be destroyed. Therefore, the ADL is attacking Minister Louis Farrakhan. And let me show you how unjust the attack is. America is a racist capitalist system. Everybody knows that. And America is an anti-Jewish country. Of this, there isn't the slightest question. Africans in America are the most religious community. I tell you this, those of you non-Africans, now show it to you. America has an awful lot of anti-religious activity, an awful lot. But you'll never find Africans as a group involved in any anti-religious activity in America. Never. We've never burned churches. We've never burned crosses. We've never defaced synagogues. And these activities go on every day in America. We have never done this. Therefore, for the African Death League to attack us shows that they're really not serious here. But if you look deeper, I will give you the real reason. The African community in America is the only community not afraid of Zionism, the only community. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad of the Nation of Islam, since the early 1960s, took a position against Zionism. SNCC took one in 1967. And since then, even those who followed Martin Luther King had to go and sit with the Palestinians and listen to their side. So they know the Africans, and I'll show you why. America, democracy, in the electoral arena has something called lobby forces. A lobby force is he who's got the most money can corrupt the most senators and get his bills through. That's just what it means. That's all it means. The most powerful force in America as a lobby force is a committee called the APAC committee, APAC. APAC is the lobby of the Zionists. It is the most powerful in America. If you will go back and just check your history, you will see that in the early 60s, there was a senator in this country by the name of Fulbright, speaking of America. Powerful, powerful, powerful. Fulbright made one statement on television one time. He said he thinks the Jews have too much power. Nobody ever heard of him again. That's how powerful they are. No politician in America has ever gone up against AIPAC, not one. Bush will talk all the nonsense he want to talk, make believe he's as bad as he want to be bad, but when Israel says jump, he says how high. No American politician dares even questions the policies of Zionism in America, none of them. Only one, a man by the name of Gus Savage in Chicago. Gus Savage, an African congressman, was running. 3 years ago, came to run again, and all he said was a simple phrase. I think y'all give too much money to Israel. You ought to give some money to Chicago, where I live. I need the money. That's all he said. That's all he said. AIPAC came into his community. They said they were going to destroy him. They did everything. The people elected him. He's the only candidate in America to stand up against them and get elected. So they know us. They know our community. When 2 years was up and he had to get reelected, he didn't win. You know why? They gerrymandered his district. They just split it up completely. He had no district. That's their power. So they know that we are not afraid of Zionism. Now, what's the contradiction? The American society at large is pro-Zionist and anti-Jewish. We are anti-Zionist and pro-Jewish. Why do they attack us if they're not Zionist pigs? Why do they attack Farrakhan if they're not Zionist pigs? Because when they attack Farrakhan, it's not Farrakhan they're attacking, it's my people and my people's culture they're attacking. Because my people are religious people. I told you that if I came before my people and told them not to believe in God, they'll stone me. This is a fact. My people are very religious people, so I cannot accept this at all. The problem is not with Farrakhan. The problem is with the Zionists understanding that they cannot control us, seeing the rising movement coming, knowing that we're going to move against them, and we will trigger the entire rest of the society as always to go against them. This cannot be stopped.